Hey everyone, Shnickerman here, back with another video. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about game hunting in different countries. A lot of people talk about building a video game collection in their specific state. Yeah, maybe they travel a little bit around to conventions or other states, but I don't see a lot of content related to game hunting in different countries. States are relatively the same, but other countries have completely different ways of running. For example, here, garage sales are a big thing. If you go to a city, for example, they may not have them, so you have to kind of use the resources that you have. So in Brazil specifically, they have these things called sebos, which are essentially like thrift stores, but most of them specialize in media, the majority of which is used books, used comics, CDs, vinyl, etc. There are some exceptions. Some of them have action figures and other collectibles, but usually it's much less, just based on how much the Brazilian economy is able to get. So along with that, Brazil specifically has large import fees on different brands, especially well-known brands. So things like Funko Pops can go for hundreds of their currency, whereas here they're much less than that. So keep that in mind as well. Video games normally retail for about like 300 to 400 of their dollars. So even finding things used can still be a little bit expensive in terms of their currency, but if you convert to the US dollar, it's actually relatively cheap. So I went to a few of these sebos or thrift stores, and not all of them have video games. You have to usually ask for the video games. Sometimes they're behind the counter or just in a very specific location. But what I think is actually cool about game hunting in different regions is that you can find games from different regions, some of which may be exclusive. So some of you might have seen a short I had about this specific version of Horizon Chase Turbo, which features a Brazilian Formula One driver, but this physical edition is exclusive to Brazil. And there are places around which might have this game for over 100 reais, where I found this for 40, which would be the equivalent of probably $8 or so USD. Even when you're at this Sebo or this thrift store, the prices you may be paying in their currency will be average to the high end. You're not going to get anything for like $1, for example. But also, if you convert, you may get some good deals. So the only place I got really a deal was at one. All of these games were 30 reais, which the tags don't actually show, but they were having a sale. And that would be the equivalent of about $5 or $6 at the time of recording. So I got Everybody's Golf, which is the Brazilian version. I'm not even sure if this is in English at all, but this is a relatively cheap game, but PS3 and PS4 are region free, as well as Nintendo Switch, so you're actually able to play these games on whatever PS4 you want. The next one is just another one I knew they didn't have in the United States. This is Handball 16 from 2016, and that's the Brazilian version as well. There's a PAL version of this too. This one I don't think is really resellable, but this one is Dance on Broadway, and the reason I bought it is just because it's sealed. And what's interesting about this, which I heard about, is sometimes they take the PAL versions of the game and just put this little sticker on here for the Brazilian version, so you can kind of see that on the back as well. And yeah, this was actually a sealed game, not super expensive, but just kind of cool to have as a memento for my game hunting in Brazil. And then the last one, and probably the best one that I found, was this copy of Gravity Rush 2, which this is the Brazilian version as well, I believe, was 30 reais, which is pretty cheap. Again, I'm curious to know if this game plays in English. I don't think it does, but was happy to add this to the collection as a little token of my adventures. So other than that, what can you find if there aren't a lot of video games? In general, there are less video games just because of their price, and like I said, imports in the past, especially for older video games. There's a lot of reproductions. I found a PS5 version of Demon Souls that was really cheap if you did the conversion, but I think it was actually fake because the art was actually not the right type of paper inside, so you have to be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. But what's really cool too is some of these sebos, they have video game magazines or anime magazines that are exclusive to the region, so it's really cool to come across those. I didn't purchase any, but there were a lot of Japanese Digimon magazines, which I thought were kind of cool, but I did come across this English magazine, which is Game Players, and this one is from November 1994. I mean, look at that cover, super cool. And I just love flipping through old magazines like this, checking out the ads. I think I may do something where I'm scanning in some of these ads and uploading them online just because I think they're just so cool. There's something in here where Shaq decides to grade a bunch of video games and he gives Street Fighter's soundtrack only a 7 out of 10. So just pretty cool. And at the same one, I found a bunch of posters. And posters are cool as well because, you know, if it's in a different region from an exclusive magazine, you may never find another one. So I got these 2 Pokemon ones, which I looked them up. I couldn't find anything similar, but they're for the card game. Just thought they were pretty cool. Got this one as well. You got the evolution and then the cards. Got some really cool Digimon posters that I don't think you can find anywhere else. Exclusive to some of their magazines. Like this one's going to be going on the wall later. Digimon Adventure 2, nice big poster. A really cool Digimon Adventure 2 like villains poster. And then some other Digimon ones I'm not going to show necessarily, but did also find a few anime related posters. Nice card captors. Sakura one. And then one of my favorite anime of all time, was super excited to find this poster, and it's for a Trigun, the old one of course, but I'm going to hang that on the wall as well. So you never know what you're going to find at these. Like I said, there's stuff from all over the place. Occasionally you'll find comics in English as well. So that's pretty cool. So that's one method of game hunting in Brazil. And the second method is going around to like little, I don't want to call them flea markets, but kind of like buildings that have a lot of separate stalls for different things. But the thing about these is a lot of them sell, again, kind of counterfeit or replica video games. So what's big in Brazil is for CD-based games, there are like burned copies of many games that they kind of sell as legitimate. So for PS2, for example, I have some footage, I think, that they have just like boxes and boxes of counterfeit PS2 games. I know that PS2s that are modded go for crazy money because it was one of the easiest ways to be able to play all the different types of games. So you have to look out for those, counterfeit Funko Pops, like all this kind of stuff. But there are video game sellers, but a lot of them have really high prices. Not even like eBay equivalent, but even higher, just because video games are hard to find, so especially new stuff is really high. You can go to like grocery stores and different stores as well. I did that. But again, if you convert the prices of their brand new games, they're usually about, you know, our new retail price, which would be about $60 or maybe even a little bit higher than that, especially for like things like Nintendo. Like Switches are insane. Consoles are like thousands of reais, which is not the same. They would be paying almost double what we would be paying here. So you got to keep that in mind as well. But another really cool thing that they do have is they don't really have eBay too much. Not too many people use it, but they have this website/app called Mercado Livre, which is, it's kind of like a cross between eBay and Amazon. There are different sellers on there. You can buy things. So what you could do if you wanted to is even shop for different regions from the US, as long as you had a place to ship it and somebody who will hold on to them and then ship them to the United States for you. That's where I ended up picking up the Horizon Chase Turbo game and got it for really cheap. We had my wife's mom hold on to them, then give them to us when we came. So that's cool as well. And Brazil has a lot of Master System exclusives, which are very expensive, especially if you get on eBay. But then at another one of the Cibos, I actually found a sealed game, which is Bloodborne, which I'm a big fan of. I don't actually own an original copy of Bloodborne. The seal is not perfect, has a bit of damage, but the price, you couldn't really go wrong with it. It was probably about $15 US or something like that. Has kind of like a bullet hole. I call it a bullet hole, but it's got a little pierce in the back. But again, just a kind of another cool memento for me from the Brazil trip of a game that I really enjoy, that I have no intentions of playing this version of the game, but I got it picked up. Now, I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there's different types of thrift stores and different things you can find. So for myself, I was looking for a thrift store that maybe specialized in toys. And what I actually found was a Cibo that specialized in 80s memorabilia kind of stuff. And it wasn't all 80s, had some video games and different things like that. We looked through, we talked to the owner. He's super nice. I'm going to link his Instagram because I think he can get some, I think it would be nice to show him a little bit more love. He was telling us about different exclusive Brazilian toys and all that kind of stuff. I told him I was looking for Digimon. He told me, let me know if he ever found anything. So just kind of cool to build those relationships. You know, we might be able to pick stuff up for him and he might be able to pick us stuff up for us. So something that's really important when you're trying to build a game collection, trying to do it for cheap, and just make connections along the way. But something I did find, which I was going to buy on that Mercado Libre website, is this. Now this is something that is a Brazilian exclusive. This is basically like, take the Super Nintendo Classic or the Genesis Classic. This is like the Sega Master System Classic. It is the Master System Evolution. There's actually other versions of this as well, but it has 132 games. It's got nice, cool Sonic art, and there's even Sonic on the console itself. And now it is pretty much an emulator, so there's no cartridge slot, but it does come with 2 controllers, which are blue as well. And man, just look at the games on here. They're just like endless amounts of games on here for the Master System. And what I think it's really cool is NES was not very popular in Brazil, but the Master System was like their console. The Master System was super, super popular. They had this company, Tech Toys, that produced it in Brazil and Portugal as well. And they had a lot of exclusive games, and they had tons of stuff on Master System that you'd be like, I thought that was a Genesis game, but they got it for Master System as well. So just really cool pickup. Got it from this guy at the thrift store for pretty much the same price I would pay from that other website, and super happy you got to test it and everything works. So look for a video on this in the future. But that's all for this video. Let me know if you've ever game hunted in another country, and if you have, put some tips in the comments for people. I think it's something that's really cool. You know, it might not be the best return on investment, for example, but you'll definitely get some cool, interesting stuff. There's plenty of promotional items that they only do in certain countries, and just different things in general. Even bootlegs, like I talked them down a little bit in replicas, but bootlegs can be pretty cool, especially for action figures and video game things. They, like Brazil, for example, has a lot of these like 501 cartridges and things like that. So definitely check those out. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And until the next video, guys, peace out.